Welcome to today's lesson. For today, we are looking at the other part of the division of polynomial function. Previously, we used the long division approach, and today we are going to use the other method. Yes, we manage our way to employ the use of the long division to divide polynomial functions. But for today's lesson, we are going to use the synthetic approach. Yes, that is the other approach that we talked about. I gave you two different approaches. We used one previously, so today we are going to use the synthetic approach. Yes, so for the synthetic approach, there's a limit. Now, when it comes to the division of the polynomial functions, you can use the long division to divide any polynomial function. But when it comes to the synthetic approach, there is a limit there. So for the synthetic approach, we are saying that you can only use to divide polynomial function whenever you are given the divisor as a binomial form, which is a linear polynomial of the form x minus k. Yes, so when you are given a binomial as a divisor in this form, f of x is equal to x minus k, then you can use the synthetic approach. Other than that, you need to still use the long division approach. Yes, so you need to take note. Most of the time, students, when the question is given to you, because they know we can use the synthetic approach, then they just go ahead and use the synthetic approach. No, you can only use it when you realize that you have the divisor as what this form, what we have before us. Yes, then you can use that. Have you gotten that? Good. So when you are given this, then you need to find the zero of f of x. Whatever you are given the divisor, you need to find the zero. Have you gotten that? Good. So what you do is, let's take this example. Let's say we are to divide f of x, which is given as ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d by g of x, which is given as what? X minus k. Yes, for this one we can use the synthetic approach. Have you gotten that? Because the divisor is given as x minus k. Okay, so we are going to base on this example to look at how we can use the synthetic approach. After that, then we take actual example, because this one deals with what? Letters. Okay, most students, when you give them letters like this, they find it so difficult to do, but we will manage our way out to ensure we get the understanding of this concept. All right, great. So let's see. Now you need to find what? The zeros of g of x. Yes, that's it. And how do we find the zeros of g of x? We've done the zeros, finding the zeros of a function. We've done that previously. So this one is very simple. It's not something new to you. Yes, we've done that. So if you have forgotten, then you need to go back to our previous lessons on the zeros of a function. So once you find the zeros, then what do? You need to write down your coefficients. The coefficient of what? The dividend. And what is the dividend? It is given in the question. That is f of x. The dividend, as I said earlier, is whatever you are going to divide by the divisor. Have you got it? So for our coefficient, we have what? A, B, C, and D. They are our coefficients. So once you get all this down, then what do? You are going to use the synthetic approach. You're going to put them down, write them. Okay, so this, you write this sign or this symbol here. You are going to fill in our coefficients and the zero. So you put your first coefficient, second one, third one, fourth one, and if there's another, you add. But here we don't have, so we also put our the zero. So you see where we write the zero and where we write what? The coefficients. Have you gotten that? So once you get all these things, then you go ahead and do the calculation. right? So once you have this, then you go ahead and do the calculations. Have you gotten that? So this is what you are going to do. Okay, so you see the first coefficient, which is what? The a. So you write the a down there. Okay, so you should write the a down there. Then after writing the a, what are you going to do? You multiply by the k. Okay, you multiply by the k. Take note, I said after you are done writing the coefficient and the zero, and you should know where to put each of them. Have you gotten that? So the first one, which is a, the second one, which is b, c, and d, you write it in that order. Then after that, what do you do? What you do is that the first coefficient, you write it beneath it. Have you gotten that? You write it down there. Now after writing it down there, what do? You multiply by the zero, which is the k. And when you multiply by that, the answer you get, so k times a gives us what? Ak. Then the answer you get, you write it under or beneath the next coefficient of the dividends. So you write it under what? The b, which is the next coefficient. After writing it under it, what do? The next step is that you are going to what? Add. You are going to what? Add them. Have you gotten that? Good. So it means you are going to add b to what? Ak. Now once you add it, then you write it under. And the answer you get, you write it under. Have you gotten that? Great. So you realize that it will be following a pattern. So once you write it under it, what do? You multiply whatever you have gotten by the k again, which is our 0. You multiply, you get what? So you write it again under the next coefficient, which is c. So when you multiply k by that, that's what you are going to write. So it is like you multiply, you write it under the coefficient, you add, you multiply, you add, you multiply, and that is how it is done. So you repeat the same pattern. Okay, yes, you follow the same pattern. So I will treat each and everyone to follow it this way, and once you do it this way, you are going to get everything what to write. Have you gotten that? Yes, that is how it is done. So if I add c to it, then this is what I'm going to get. You write it under it, and then the next thing is what? You multiply by k again. The answer you get, you write it under what? The d, the next coefficient. After writing under the next coefficient, what do? You add it and write your answer down. And that is what we have. Okay, so once you are able to do all these things, then the rest for you, or the next thing to do, is to identify which one is your remainder. So when it is done like this, you are done. You are done. Then most of the difficult parts is done. That is all. Your only next agenda is towards identify which one is my remainder, which one is my quotient. Have you gotten that? Great. So now the last decade, yes. So the last decade becomes what? Our remainder. Have you gotten that? Yes. So whenever you do this, what calculations and all that last decade, which is second, becomes what? Our remainder. What about the rest of the figures? So the rest of the figures becomes what? The coefficient of the quotient. So it is the coefficient that we use to write the quotient. So to get your quotients, you write the quotient from what? The coefficients you have now. Have you gotten that? So how do we write the quotient? Now you see that in the coefficients you see there, the last one, which is k multiplying ak plus b plus what? C, that becomes what? The constant. So it is our constant. Then you move to the next one, which is ak plus b, and that will take what? The x, the linear part. Okay, that will take x. And when you move to the next one, which is what? To our left, which is the a, that takes what? The quadratic part. So it will take what? The x square. If there is another, we move again to our left, and that takes what? The cube. Okay, or the cubic part, and that will be what? X exponent what? 3, or x cube. If there's more, you move again and it takes what? The fourth what? Or the square root. Have you gotten that? Great. Yes, so once you have it like this, then writing the quotient is easy. Okay, so you can do that, which will take the x. If that's the case, then let's write our quotient. Okay, so as I said, the first a will take what? Yes, so this is the coefficient of the quotients. Have we gotten that? Great. So the first one takes what? The x squared. That is what? The quadratic part. The next one takes what? The x, and that is the linear part. And then the last one becomes what? The constant. Have we got it? That is how we write this. Then our remainder gives us what? The last ticket. So this is how the synthetic approach is used. Okay, now when it is letters like this, most students get confused. If that's the case, we are going to take an example and use actual numbers. Then we see how we can do that. So we'll not waste time. Let's take our first example. So we are going to use the same example we did previously, where we used the long division approach. So this time we are going to use the synthetic approach to see if you get the same quotient and the same remainder. But in this case, we are going to use the improper fraction. We are going to write it in this form. In previous one, we wrote it in the other form. This time we are going to write it in the improper fraction. Remember, in the previous one, we wrote the dividend form, where we said the dividend is equal to what? The quotient multiplying the divisor plus the remainder. But this time we are going to write it in the improper fraction form, because I told you that a polynomial can be written in this form. Have you gotten my point? Great. So we will not waste my time. Let's identify our coefficients. Okay, great. So our coefficient, which we have as the x cubed, is equal to what? 1. The coefficient of x squared is what? -5. And the coefficient of x is what? 4. And then the constant, which is d, gives us what? -3. Then once we are done, we also what? Find the zero of the linear polynomial, which is x minus what? 2. So to find the linear the zero, you've done this already, so this is not the new thing that we've done. As I said previously, if you have forgotten, then you need to go back to most of our previous lessons, and you get how to find the zeros of what? A function or a polynomial function. So you only equate to 0 and solve for x like this. That is how we find the zeros of a function. Okay, so if that is the case, then our x becomes what? 2. So the 2 is the 0 of that polynomial, the linear. Okay, once you are able to get your coefficient and your the zeros, what do you do? What you do is that you go ahead and do the calculation. Have you gotten that? So you fill in your coefficient and the 0. So I'll write my 0 first, which is the 2. Then I will also fill in my coefficients. Okay, yes, I'll fill all my coefficients there until they are exhausted. Okay, once you do it this way, then the rest is for you to go ahead and do the calculation. So as I said, now this one we are dealing with raw numbers. Okay, so as we are dealing with raw numbers, what you do is that you follow the same way we use what? The letters. Have you gotten the point? So you see that this is what? Very simple, and this is very basic, so you don't need to waste time. What do you do? So the first coefficient on our list is what? 1. So as I said, you look at the first coefficient, whatever value is there, you write it down. So it is 1. Therefore, you write the 1 down like this. And after writing 1, what do? You are going to what? Multiply. You are going to multiply the 1 you have written by what? The 0, which is the 2. Have you gotten that? Good. So if you multiply, what are you going to get? You are going to get 2. The 2 you have gotten, or the answer you have gotten, you write it under the next coefficient of the dividend. And the next coefficient is what? -5. So you write a 2 there under it. Okay, yes. And what does it mean? So what it means is that after writing that 2 under the next what coefficient, then we are going to do what? We are going to add. Okay, we are going to add to the 5. Whatever you write it under, you add to it. Okay, so if you are going to add, then what will be our answer? -5 plus 2 gives us what? -3. You write it under it. Have you gotten that? Great. So once you write the -3 there, what do you do next? Your next step is to multiply by the 2 again, which is outside. The 2, which is the 0. Okay, yes. So -3 times the 2 gives us what? -6. So the -6 you have gotten. What do you do? What you do is that you try to write it under what? The next coefficient. And the next coefficient is what? 4. So we are going to write the -6 under it. Good. And when you write it there, what is the next step? The next step is that you add again. So you see that it follows that pattern. You repeat the same what? Principle, the same procedure, the same pattern. Okay, so if it is there, then what do? We add. It means 4 plus -6 gives us what? -2. You write it there, and once you write it there, what is the next thing? You multiply the -2 by the 0, which is the 2, and that gives us what? -4. And then -4, you write it under the next coefficient, which is what? 3. Have you gotten that? So you see that it follows this pattern. It's very, very what? Basic. It is very, very basic. So my dear students and learners, whenever you are doing this, then please kindly take your time. It's very, very easy. You can do it and get your answer. Okay, so what do? We add and get -7. So once you are done, then that's all. If you're able to do it like this, then most of the difficult parts is done. Have you gotten that? The rest is for you to know which one is your remainder, and then also be able to write the quotient from this. Have you gotten that? So this is very simple, very basic. Okay, so as I said, the last digits, after doing everything, the last digits becomes what? Your remainder. Have you gotten that? Good. So the -7, which is the last digit, becomes our remainder. So once you get that, then you also need to get your quotient. And how do you get the quotient? You get the quotient from these values. So the rest of these values becomes the coefficient of the quotient. Okay, because anytime you are writing the quotient, it is what? The coefficients that you use. Have you gotten that? So these numbers, the rest of the numbers are the coefficients of the quotient, but you need to write the quotient. Okay, so once you get this, then you see that the last digit of this coefficient, which is the -2, that becomes what? Our constant. Okay, so if it is the constant, then if you move to the next number to your left, that one is what? -3. And that -3 takes what? The linear form. In that case, x will be attached to it. Have you gotten that? So this time we have -3x minus 2. Then you move to the next one, which is at your left side, which is 1. That one also takes what? The quadratic part. So in that case, x squared will be attached. Okay, good. Then if you have further numbers, you move again, then you are going to what? The cubic part. The cubic part, and that takes what? X exponent what? 3, or x cube. If you still have, then you move on and move on, and that is how we write the quotient. So if that is the case, let's not waste much time. Let's write our quotient. So for our quotient, we have it like this. So the 1 there takes the square root, and we know that the 1 takes what? The square, that is the quadratic part. And we know that when you multiply 1 by x squared, you still get x squared. That's why I don't need to bring the 1 again. Then the negative 3 takes what? The x, and then my negative 2 becomes what? The constant. Okay, so you see that this is what? A very basic, that you don't need to waste much time. So you need to relax. Okay, great. So you see that. Have you gotten that? Yes. So that is how it is done there. Okay, so whenever you are doing this thing, you need to relax and take your time. Okay, so once we have this one, then the question asks us to write our answer in this form. That is the improper fraction. Okay, so for improper fraction, as I said earlier, where we are saying that the improper fraction is when the numerator is greater than the denominator. So in this case, and I also told you that for the binomial, if you want to divide, always make sure that the dividend, or the degree, the highest degree of the dividend is greater or equal to the highest degree of the divisor. Okay, so once you realize that the highest degree of the dividend is greater than the highest degree of the divisor, then you can write the improper fraction, because we are saying that the improper fraction is when the numerator is greater. Have you gotten that? Great. So we use the dividend and the divisor to write the improper fraction. If that's the case, then what is our dividend? That is what? X cubed minus 5x squared plus 4x minus 3. That is our dividend, and we are going to divide it by the divisor, which is what? X minus 2. So you realize that the highest degree of the dividend is 3, and the highest degree of the divisor is what? 1, and that makes it what? Improper fraction. Okay, so all these improper fraction thing that in the beginning I said, this is how we write the improper fraction. Okay, yes. Then we can also write the quotient. As for the quotient, where we said it is x squared minus 3x minus 2. Okay, and then we get our remainder, which is the negative 7 divided by the divisor. Okay, so, and that's it. That is it. So you see that this is very, very what? Simple. So my dear students, or my dear learners, I encourage you to read more on these things. Some of these things are very basic, that you don't need to waste my time on this. Okay, so that is all about the synthetic approach. Okay, so I know that whenever questions are given to you to use the synthetic approach, from this principle, or how we've gone through all these processes, I know you'll be able to do them correctly. Okay, yes, so that ends everything. Okay, so in our next lesson, we are going to look at remainder theorem and the factor theorem. So we are going to look at factor theorem and the remainder theorem. That is what we are going to treat in our next lesson. Okay, if that's the case, then we shall end here and continue next time. Okay, so I'm your facilitator, Evans. Okay, the name of this channel is Mazris TV. I entreat each and everyone to follow us. Kindly subscribe to the channel. You can also pick any of our contacts. You can send me email and I will reply. You can also leave any submission you want to send under the comment section, and everything will be attended to. If that's the case, then let's end here and continue next time. Bye bye.